Folks, you know the Democrats are evil when people like Jen Psaki say things like, "We've got Christian fundamentalists named Mike Johnson's going to be Speaker of the House." Oh no! They're in full blown panic, folks. And if the worst thing you could say about Mike Johnson is he's an election denier, he's a Trump supporter, and he's a devout Christian, boy howdy, I love every bit of that stuff. So if the left is crying salty tears behind those three accolades alone, we got us a good one, folks. Now, the mainstream media has been trying to bash Mike Johnson for the last couple of days. They don't really got nothing on him. So they're trying to bash him for his smile, his glasses, calling him Jim Jordan in a coat. And even Jen Psaki has, in so many words, let the cat out of the bag. Let the American people know the Democrat Party supports everything that is anti Christian. They really do not like the fact that Mike Johnson got on the floor of the House and said a prayer before he was sworn in. I guess it rubbed some of the evil's feathers the wrong way. But at any rate, got a couple clips here for you folks, and bear with me because it is propaganda media. But I just want to let you know how they are trying to make Mike Johnson out to be MAGA deplorable, um, racist, extremist, religious fundamentalist, whatever name calling you want to throw at the man. He's the right man for the job. We all know it. That's why they're throwing a friggin' hissy fit. I love it. I love it. Let's go ahead and get into this clip, folks. But you'll see right quick. These suckers are in full blown panic. They are mad at the situation. They don't like the cards they were dealt. They didn't figure. This is what I thought was cool. The Democrats, when they voted Kevin McCarthy out, turned on Kevin McCarthy, helped our party out. They didn't figure we would end up with somebody better than Kevin McCarthy. So for all the Democrats that helped Matt Gaetz get rid of Kevin McCarthy, thank you. Good job. Appreciate you, fellas. All you lefties, great job. Love it. I love it. I love it when we get a little help from the lefties getting rid of one of our rhinos. I ain't mad at you. All right, folks. Now check this out. This is a used to be a chief Republican strategist, but now he just sounds like a rhino.
Could stand up there and say, look, you may not like me, you may not agree with me, but we have important stuff to do. So what is their important stuff to do? You know, investigate Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, when you think about it, the person who's third in line to the presidency doesn't believe the current president is legally elected, so doesn't believe we live in a democracy and believes that we live in an occupied country. That's kind
He's trying to say that this is a crazy notion to think that our government has been weaponized against us. It's just ludicrous to think that everything's running all hunky dory with the government. Yeah, right.
of difficult to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, and I mean, Ali Vitale, he's a skeptic of funding for our ally, Ukraine, in their hot war against Russia. He has views way outside. I mean, I hope they send him out of the campaign trail because his views on abortion are way outside the mainstream of Republican political thought on the other side of voters in Kansas and Ohio and other very, very red parts of the country. His views on democracy, again, to the right of Republican voters. His views.
When a Democrat uses that term democracy or threat to democracy, if you take the word autocracy and you replace it with democracy, or you replace democracy with autocracy, then it tends to sound like an actual true statement. We are a threat to their autocracy. And people like Mike Johnson who want things to be fair on the up and up and transparent, that goes totally against their socialist autocracy. Absolutely.
Views on foreign policy to the right of the Republican voter. What were they thinking?
They were thinking, we got us a good one. We got somebody in here that can work with everybody, at least on the Republican side, and that's all we need. We don't need any more bipartisan support from not another single Democrat. For one thing, they're not going to work with us. So the word bipartisanship, what that really means is working with the Democrats. That's what bipartisanship actually means.
Stuart Stevens said what I was also told by some folks who were starting to parse through the Mike Johnson record, which is he's Jim Jordan with a jacket and a smile. That's something that when you actually start parsing through the policy comes through very clearly, that this is someone who maybe without the publicity and fanfare is certainly working in lockstep on the same ideological and ethos ideas that people like Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise have been talking about over the course of the last several years. He just hasn't been doing it as often on Fox News. But this is who they ended up with. And I think it takes me back to yesterday when you and I were having this conversation, albeit at that point it was chaos because we didn't know who the speaker was going to be. At least now there is a speaker for the first time in over 3 weeks. But the conversation that you and I were having was that it's part and parcel to the Republican conference platform in the House right now to have anti-small d Democratic values. And so it shouldn't be striking that the person that they put up for this job maybe wasn't cited all over the January 6th report, though there is at least one mention of him in there. But instead, he's someone who simply provided some of the attempted rationale for how to overturn an election.
That's enough of that trashing, Mike Johnson. You know what? They're going to try to trash him for the election denying issue. They're going to try to trash him for being a Trump supporter. And even Jen Psaki is trashing him for being a Christian. That's all they got, folks. He's a great man for the job. I love to hear the salty tears. I love to hear him crying about the fact that they are no longer in control of the House. Whether you know it or not, folks, the Uniparty has been controlling Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell and basically been controlling our Congress for more than 10 years. There's no doubt about it. Even while Trump was president, a lot of things he could not get done. He couldn't get done because of the fact, even though we had the majorities in both chambers, there's always a dozen rhinos on both sides willing to fight against the good fight, actually trying to act like Democrats. Now let's go ahead and jump into another clip here for you. I don't need them to hear any more trashing of Mike Johnson, but you see what they're doing here. They're trying to spin doctor this to vilify him as Trump 2.0, and it ain't working. Now let's listen to Jen Psaki. She really goes off the rails with her little panic crap. Now, Jen Psaki kind of makes a reference that Mike Johnson is evil for the fact that he supports God. He's a Christian. He's a devout Christian. Somehow or another, for her, that's a reason to panic. That's I don't know how to say it other than she may be a heretic, at the least, a hater, and an anti-Christian.
There is still a place in the Republican Party for extreme Christian conservatism, so long as it's paired with a fealty to the former president. So let's take a few minutes to talk about this new speaker. First glance, Mike Johnson does seem fine-ish. Conservative, yes, but he once started a civility caucus with a Democrat. And I mean, if nothing else, he wears a suit and has glasses. How threatening can this guy actually be?
Conflating ideology, folks. She is trying to put a bad spin on the fact that Mike Johnson is a Christian. Shame on her. All I can say to that is Jesus is what? You ever heard that expression, God is watching us? Well, Jen Psaki needs to take note that she is trashing a man of God and trying to stoke fear into her audience because the conservative Christian Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is a decent man. And there's just no way to spin this to make him out to be the bad guy. So they attack his religious beliefs. Plumb shameful. That's all I can say about that. Plumb shameful.
Heard that right. The Bible doesn't just inform his worldview, it is his worldview. In fact, during his first speech in his new job, Johnson suggested that his election as Speaker was an act of God. Talk about a bit of a humble brag there. So what exactly has God apparently called on Mike Johnson to do? Well, his views on policy are essentially what you'd expect from a religious fundamentalist. They're more divisive than they are divine. Prior to his election to Congress in 2016, Johnson spent nearly 2 decades working for the hard-right conservative legal activist group, the Alliance Defending Freedom. It's a group, by the way, that is so right-wing, it was designated a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Southern Poverty Law Center, it's calling this group a hate group. If you ever did any research on the Southern Poverty Law Center, it is one of the groups that is an advocate for the Black Lives Matter riots among many and the Antifa movement. So for them to make statements like that, who's calling the kettle black? Look who's calling the kettle black.
The ADF has worked for decades to blur the line between church and state, if not erase it altogether. It's kind of their goal. They've pushed to expand LGBTQ plus discrimination in the name of religious freedom. And they were a big part of the effort to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Tell me what you think about Jen Psaki and her nasty conversation and her anti-religious rhetoric against none other than the great Mike Johnson. Over and out, folks. Have a good day.